let's get right into it. Today, we're unpacking a fascinating yet profoundly tragic intersection in modern hip-hop. We're talking about two absolute giants of the culture, Chicago's King Von and Baton Rouge's NBA Youngboy. These are two artists whose undeniable talent literally skyrocketed them to the top of the charts. But their lives fundamentally blurred the line between the art they created and the harsh, everyday reality they actually lived.
So it begs the question, right? What exactly happens when rap lyrics are no longer just fiction? For decades, hip-hop has basically been built on storytelling. But in this modern era of drill and street rap, hyper-authentic narratives have completely changed the landscape. Fans aren't just looking for catchy hooks anymore. No, they are eagerly consuming the literal reality of the streets, tracking the real-world movements and rivalries of the artists they listen to. But when the lyrics aren't just metaphors, the real-world consequences become absolutely impossible to ignore.
To really understand this hyper-authenticity, we have to look at where the art was actually born. King Von himself put it perfectly. He said, "In jail, you don't do shit but read, write, and think about the past. I was reading a lot of books in there. That's probably where that shit came from." Back in 2014, a 19-year-old Davon Bennett was facing some extremely serious charges, carrying a massive potential sentence. He actually spent years behind bars waiting for trial before those charges were eventually dropped in 2017. But here's the thing. It was during this exact period of incarceration that his foundational storytelling was really forged. He wasn't in some lavish million-dollar recording studio. He was sitting in a cell, reading, writing, and spinning these gripping, truly cinematic narratives right out of his own memories.
When we look at King Von and NBA Youngboy side by side, we're basically looking at two parallel paths shaped by entirely different yet equally intense environments. Take King Von. He had a delayed but incredibly explosive entry into the industry, championed heavily by his childhood friend Lil Durk. Von brought this cold, vivid precision to Chicago drill. He was a classical, urgent storyteller who didn't really rely much on melody. On the flip side, you got NBA Youngboy from Baton Rouge, who experienced a staggeringly rapid teenage ascent. Youngboy's music is defined by this incredible emotional rawness, pain, and a sort of melodic aggression that just immediately resonated. And that rawness, it translated directly into staggering YouTube metrics and a fiercely, fiercely loyal fan base.
To put that scale into perspective, 148 million. That is the number of YouTube views for King Von's breakout hit, Crazy Story, on his official channel alone. And what's absolutely incredible about this track is how it actually came to be. After signing to Lil Durk's Only the Family label, Von famously wrote the lyrics to Crazy Story without even hearing a beat, just riding on a bus from Atlanta back to Chicago. The result was this breathless, kinetic tale of an attempted robbery that just gripped listeners. It proved, without a doubt, that his raw, unedited street narratives had massive mainstream appeal.
But when we shift gears and look at NBA Youngboy's staggering musical output, we see it running parallel to a continuous, highly volatile legal reality. While he was dropping absolute chart-topping albums like Top and 38 Baby 2, he was simultaneously navigating a heavy timeline of severe legal challenges. It all started back in 2015 with a robbery arrest when he was just 15 years old. That was followed by an attempted homicide charge in 2016, then an assault and kidnapping arrest in 2018, and later a massive sweep in 2020. This constant friction with the law, you guys, it wasn't some clever marketing gimmick. It was a turbulent reality bleeding directly into the emotionally tormented music his fans were just devouring. And the stakes of that reality? They were incredibly high. $47,000. That's the amount of cash police actually found on Youngboy during that September 2020 arrest in Baton Rouge. That same sweep reportedly uncovered multiple firearms, including an AK-47, right alongside digital scales and various drugs. It paints a really stark picture. Because despite earning immense wealth and reaching the absolute pinnacle of the music charts, the dangerous reality of the streets was never truly left behind.
Returning to King Von for a moment, his authenticity as a trusted narrator came from his very real survival in Chicago's Parkway Gardens, an area legendary and infamous in drill culture as O-Block. He didn't just rap about the neighborhood, he was fiercely loyal to it. Long before he was ever a charting artist, he was deeply, deeply intertwined with the street ties and conflicts of his area. The core credibility that made fans hang on to his every single word was built on the undeniable fact that he had lived and survived the exact tragedies and rivalries he detailed in his tracks.
Which brings us to the collision course, OTF versus NBA. You see, when you have two fiercely loyal, highly charged camps, Lil Durk and King Von's OTF on one side, and NBA Youngboy and Quando Rondo's camp on the other, operating in a culture where ego and street principles are absolutely paramount, well, the friction can spark incredibly quickly.
Tracking this escalation, we see a timeline largely driven by ego, street mentality, and of course, the modern amplifier of it all, social media. Early in 2020, rumors started circulating about declined feature requests between the artists. By mid-2020, this had translated into social media subliminals. Those veiled insults where nobody actually drops a name, but everyone knows exactly who they're talking about. This was exacerbated by public tension involving associates, friends, and even ex-girlfriends. It was basically a slow drip of disrespect in an environment where neither side was willing to back down. And sadly, it culminated tragically in November of 2020. November 6, 2020. The Monaco Hookah Lounge. It's absolutely crucial here that we objectively look at the reported facts and interview accounts of this tragic climax. It's a night that resulted in the heartbreaking loss of a rising star. Based directly on police reports and Quando Rondo's own recounting in a Breakfast Club interview, here's the breakdown of this chaotic moments. Quando Rondo was reportedly waiting outside the lounge by a vehicle. King Von's crew arrived, and reports indicate that Von approached Quando as the aggressor. A physical altercation immediately ensued with Von striking Quando,
Then literally within seconds, a member of Kwando's entourage, Timothy Lul Tim Leaks, drew a weapon and fired, fatally wounding King Von.
Now, the crucial point in the aftermath of this event is understanding the legal framework of self-defense. This concept became the absolute center of the legal strategy for Lul Tim. The defense essentially argued that he was using reasonable force to protect a member of his party from an active, ongoing attack. While Lul Tim was initially charged with murder, he was later released on bond, and the charges against him were eventually dropped completely, closing the case under the premise of self-defense.
The musical aftermath. Because as we know, in hip-hop, the closing of a legal case rarely means the end of the actual story. Let's look at how this real-world tragedy immediately spilled right back into the music, cementing the very premise we started this explainer with.
In early 2022, NBA Youngboy released the lead single Bring the Hook, and the lyrics explicitly referenced the real-life tragedy, boasting about an O-block pack. For context, that's a pretty grim slang term mocking a deceased rival by comparing their ashes to smokable marijuana. This wasn't just some subliminal diss anymore. It was a direct, highly publicized taunt leveraging a very real-world death. And the crazy thing? It brought the feud straight to the Billboard charts, pushing the song to absolutely massive streaming numbers.
The ripples sent through the hip-hop industry were immediate. It set off this totally chaotic chain reaction. Lil Durk posted a picture on Instagram alongside a King Von poster with a caption aimed directly at Youngboy's camp. Other artists stepped in too. Guys like Lil Reese and NLE Choppa publicly criticized Youngboy for the sheer disrespect of the diss. In return, Youngboy actually escalated things even further, dropping yet another diss track aimed specifically at Choppa. And through all of this intense back and forth, the streaming numbers for both camps, they just kept growing larger. The music ecosystem completely absorbed the feud, essentially turning a fatal, real-life tragedy into serialized entertainment.
King Von and NBA Youngboy proved that in modern music, authenticity is the ultimate currency. Fans want the real thing, for sure. But when stories of survival, violence, and trauma are no longer just art, but active, volatile realities playing out in real time right in front of us, what is the true human cost of consuming the streets as our main source of entertainment? It's a heavy question. Thank you so much for watching this explainer. Keep thinking critically about the media we consume, and we'll see you next time.